Hi, I'm Mike Richter, and today we're going to be talking about the most important thing I've taught my kids about money. Now, one of the biggest things that I can do as a father is to help my children to relate to money and to get them to learn the keys to success so that as they grow up and they relate to money well, hopefully, after I've taught them, then they're free to do the things that they're passionate about and the things that they can do to bring value to the world in accordance with their unique talents, skills, and abilities. And let me go ahead and show you the one simple thing that I taught my kids about 2 years ago. Right now, my daughter just turned 7, and my son's getting ready to turn 6 a little later next month. So here it is. It's real simple. You may have seen it before, but it goes something like this. Got a nice rectangular box up here, and in it we've got I, which stands for income, and E, which stands for expenses. Very simple stuff here. We're not trying to go ahead and blow kids' minds. But I didn't even explain to them what kind of things counted as income yet, or what kind of things counted as expenses. The first step was to get them to memorize this shape and for them to understand what's going on here. And we understand as adults that this is basically what a cash flow statement is. You take your income and you subtract your expenses, and out pops your cash flow, either positive if you're doing well or negative if you're not doing so well. But in addition to teaching them this, at the same time, I taught them something even more important, and that's this. Another rectangle, and we've got assets and liabilities. This is your balance sheet. This goes ahead and shows you how many assets you've got relative to your liabilities. When you take your assets, you subtract your liabilities, and you end up with your net worth. And I had them drawing this because I kept drawing it in my notebooks. Whenever I was at a meeting or I was sitting down with them and we just had some free times, I would draw this. And over time, they would end up drawing it too. And it was completely unprompted. But every time they did draw it, I went ahead and just told them a little bit about what it is. And I would explain to them, I is income, and E is expenses, A is assets, and L is liabilities. And they were really young at the time. They were 3 and 4 respectively. And they didn't really know what those words were. But the fact is, they had it in their vocabulary. And it was something that they were learning as they were going. Now, over the past couple of years, we've also played as a family this one board game that I've mentioned in a previous video called Cash Flow for Kids. And it looks like this. Pretty straightforward. It's made by Robert Kiyosaki. He is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's a great game to teach kids about money. But one of the coolest things about the game is this, which is a different way of expressing this right here. So let me go ahead and put this up to the camera. First, you got your income statement, and on the top end, you've got salary, which talks about money that you get from working, and then passive income, which is money that you get while you're not working, either from stocks, bonds, real estate, owning businesses that you don't have to personally work in, things like that. And then down below, you've got expenses. Now, the game goes ahead and starts you out with a certain number of expenses, and the whole point of the game is to have more passive income than your expenses, and then you become what's called a cash flow kid. Now, at the very bottom, you've got your balance sheet. Just like on the drawing up on the board, we've got assets right here, and it's divided into securities, which are stocks and bonds. We've got real estate and businesses that you don't have to daily operate in. And then on the flip side, you've got liabilities, things like borrowed money where you take out personal loans. You've got things like credit cards and things like mortgages. And in the game, you see kids over time, as they play the game, they associate these things like credit cards and personal loans with negative feelings. They see that their expenses are going up, and it makes it harder for them to win the game. And every time they pass a payday, they get their salary and their passive income, and they have to pay out the expenses. But the trick is, if they've taken on more credit cards, or if they've taken on a second mortgage, or bought a bigger house, and it doesn't provide them any income, well, they have higher expenses on the flip side of that. So that's a really important thing that this game really inculcates into the children. And we were playing on Monday, and the kiddos would get really excited when they purchased something with really good passive income, and they would get upset, and they were like, no, I really don't want to have this extra expense on me. So it really teaches kids to be averse from actual personal expenses. And that was one of the coolest things about the game, and I'm really glad that over these years that we've been playing it, we'd play it maybe once every 3 months or so, but the fact is, repetition over time gets them to really make these associations in their mind. Now, on Sunday, I went ahead and took this drawing, and I really put some context into it with the kids. And now that they had seen it and they've kind of experienced it, they've had some money, they've had some expenses that they've paid for, they've found ways to generate income. Now that they've had that kind of experience and they've gotten used to what it means to have income and to pay out expenses, now it was time for me to really put more emphasis on this and kind of give them another layer deeper on this. And how I did it was I added 2 simple things, and it really went ahead and turned a light bulb on to both of their heads, and we had a lot of great conversations about it, even since Sunday. That was a couple days back now. And here are the 2 things that I added. First, placed an arrow from the asset column to the income column. And I went ahead and let them know that assets are what help you keep or make money, which is basically what they do. If you've got rental property and you're cash flow positive on it, then you're ending up bringing in money from that house, which is the asset. And the next thing that I did for them is I drew another arrow. I drew an arrow from the liabilities section over to the expense section. And basically the explanation was liabilities over time take money from you. So when you take out a personal loan, for example, yes, you pay back the loan so that you're roughly neutral, but the interest you pay on that loan is definitely an expense, or any origination charges that you have to pay in order to get the loan in the first place. Those are expenses that you pay out. So that liability creates an expense for you. Same thing with property taxes on your primary residence. A lot of times people talk about their home as their biggest asset. Well, if we look from the perspective of assets are what either keeps money for you or makes you money, well, in some ways the house is an asset in that it's a store of value. However, in the aspect that it makes you money, well, it could make you money when you sell the house, but while you own it, it's not really making you much money unless you're renting out rooms or you end up moving out of it and renting out the house as a whole, because you've got a mortgage and insurance and property taxes that are counting against any principal that you're paying down on the mortgage. If you've got a house free and clear and you're living in it, well, you still have expenses associated with it because you still have to pay property taxes, and it's a good idea to keep insurance on your house because if something crazy happens, you want to make sure that your family and your house is well protected against financial loss. So these 2 arrows went ahead and opened up a whole new world for my children in terms of how they relate to money. And that right there, even though they're only 5 and 7 right now, they have learned so much more about money than most people have in their mid to late 20s. So, if you like this content, by all means, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you found any value in it whatsoever, I'd really appreciate it if you can share it with your friends and family. Anybody that you think could get value out of it, then by all means share it. I'm giving it out freely so that other people can learn, and hopefully we can teach the kids how to be better with money than we were when we were younger, and they can be free to pursue their interests and pursue their passions. If you'd like to see more content from my channel, then by all means, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you've got any comments about the most important thing about money that you've taught your children, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section down below. If you're interested in getting the Cash Flow for Kids board game, I'll leave a link to get it down in the description below. And thank you so much for your time. Make it a great day. And remember one thing, you're only one action away from the rest of your life. Make it count.